Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. It's 3 p.m. here in Amman, where we are located, and we are very pleased to take place in World Water Week 2024. Thank you for joining us today and engaging in our session, which will highlight the importance of effective cooperation and towards improved security in one of the most water-scarce countries worldwide, located amid a very complex geopolitical context, hopefully allowing for extended global interconnectivity, as well as inspiring and encouraging cooperation in other challenging contexts around the world. This is Asil Ahmed. I'm a Senior Marketing and Proposal Specialist at CDM Smith, and I'm going to be moderating this session titled Showcasing Jordan Water Sector Collaboration to Achieve Security and Sustainability. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from esteemed speakers and experts in the field, His Excellency Engineer Raed Abu Soud, the Jordanian Minister of Water and Irrigation, Ashley King, Deputy Director of Water Resources and Environment Office at USAID Jordan, and my colleague experts, technical experts leading the implementation of USAID key activities in Jordan, namely Jose Maria Guzman, the Chief of Party for the Aqaba Amman Water Desalination and Conveyance Project, APSC, Cecile Topul, the Chief of Party for USAID Building Water Infrastructure activity, BWI, and William O'Neill, the Design Manager for the same. So moving to our agenda, I'm taking these first 5 minutes for the introduction, including an introductory videos that will set the stage for the panel discussion. His Excellency will start the presentation by presenting the water sector situation, challenges, and national strategy. Then Ashley will be presenting how USAID, as a partner to the government, is supporting the efforts towards water security in Jordan. And then Cecile, Jose Maria, and William will be presenting key ongoing programs implemented by the government of Jordan and USAID towards the national strategy implementation and realization. We will conclude with 10 to 15 minutes for questions and answers, where you're all encouraged to post your questions in the chat panel throughout the presentation time, mentioning whose your question is addressed to, and we'll take as many as we can. So now let's kick off with this introductory video. Dina?
As one of the most water-scarce countries in the world, Jordan feels the effects of climate change. The country's water supply only meets about 2/3 of the population's water demands, with groundwater being used twice as quickly as it can be replenished. Today, there is less than 100 liters of water available per person per day. Simply, there's not enough water to meet demand. By 2070, average temperatures in Jordan will rise another 4 degrees centigrade, and precipitation will drop by up to 21%. Every year, the water sector experiences water and revenue losses as a result of leaks, theft, or broken meters. Without enough money to maintain the water system, the water utilities are unable to do the necessary repairs and upgrades, resulting in infrastructure falling into disrepair. This is why the U.S. government is partnering with the government of Jordan to build the country's water security through 3 channels. First, working with the Ministry of Water and Irrigation and the utilities to strengthen water governance and reduce water loss. Second, partnering with the private sector to incentivize water conservation in agriculture and industry. And third, supporting infrastructure construction to increase water supply. USAID is particularly proud to support Jordan in their efforts to develop the Aqaba Amman Water Desalination and Conveyance Project. When completed, it will meet 40% of Jordan's water needs. USAID will continue to support the government of Jordan to confront climate change and improve water services to families and businesses across the kingdom.
Okay, by this, Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Yes, when to talk, I mean, the film said it all about the Jordan situation with the water scarcity in Jordan. And we're really facing a huge problem with the water. There is no country in the world that they serve the people once a week, supplying water all over the kingdom. And this is said how bad, how the situation is going and deteriorating badly. We're trying our best in the water sector to serve the Jordanian and to give them the service as much as we can also. And I have to mention that we have the support from the USAID by all means, by continuing supplying the water and to get the new projects and so on. And especially now they are helping us a great time with the national career, which I consider this as our saving project for Jordan and for the Jordanian in the future. And you know, with the numbers that it's not only that we have the problem of the water. You know, Jordan before 1948 was one of the richest countries with water. But since 1948, 1967, and the war in Syria, the war in Iraq, all the refugees are coming back to Jordan. And this is giving us the population growth is not going according to the growth of the natural growth. It's with the refugees, especially with the Syrian refugees. It increased like 3.1 million. Now we're talking about 30% of the population are refugees, which is consuming more water. Having said that, even the people coming from Syria or from Iraq, they're coming from a country with rich water. So the way they use water is different than the Jordanian. Like we open the tap and we close it. Whenever we need the water, we open. But these guys, they come, they open it in the morning, they shut it down at evening. So they're coming from a country that they don't have problem with waters. But now I think most of them, they feel what's the water issues in Jordan. So this is putting more burden on our system and in our water network. And we're trying, the Hashemite family, God bless them, they don't stop, they don't close the borders. They open it for all refugees coming from neighboring Arab countries. And that's a briefing of what is we receiving now, but with the support of the Prime Minister and His Majesty personally is following up on the water. And I want now to you see the structure of the governance and water structure in Jordan. Everybody is familiar with it, I think, from my colleagues and from all the donors. How is the Ministry of Water? We have WAJ and WAJ Water Authority of Jordan and the GVA Jordan Valley Authority. And Jordan Valley Authority, it's a very important also sector in the water sector because they're dealing with the farmers in the Jordan Valley, which is the food basket of Jordan. So this is also another important sector which gives the farmers the water, and they're trying to improve the farmers to improve the irrigation and to go to the right crops that can get more money, not to use more water. So they're doing a great job in the Jordan Valley. And with the water, with WAJ, now we have the utilities, which is take the burden from WAJ, and they're doing a good job on that. Okay, next. Okay, the challenges in water. I mean, in the film, they said that we give 61 cubic meter per capita per year, which is now we are the poorest country as far as water is concerned. And what makes it worse is the climate change, and even the rhythm of the rain is changing. We're getting now more floods more than we're getting the average rainy season, which is affecting the aquifers badly. The flash flood is not doing any good. A lot of rain in certain area, but this is not doesn't help our aquifers at all. Of course, our groundwater, like also in the beginning, our aquifers has been depleting, and we are getting to red line of using the aquifers. Our aquifers is getting dry now, and we're going with the aquifers deeper and deeper to get more water. But also when we go deeper, the quality of water is changing. It's getting more salt, and it's getting us giving us more problems. Next. Of course, now with the population growth, normal growth with the Jordanian population and the refugees, which is mean more people are using water, and we're trying to educate the people how to use water. And we have a special program with the USAID teaching the kids, because we invest in kids. That's where we can get the education with the kids to teach them how water is precious to Jordanian and to use it properly. And this program, really, we're getting good results out of it. At least now the kids telling their parents not to abuse the water, which is a very good and positive sign we're getting out of this program. And talking about all these problems, I can say now our hope and our light in the end of the tunnel is the national carrier. National carrier, it will solve, I don't want to say that's 100% of our problem, but at least 70% of our problem, which means a high number, a good number, that at least we can supply water to the Jordanian 4 to 5 days a week, which will make it dramatic change in the water supply, and it will keep the Jordanian satisfied with the water supply on that one. And talking about this national carrier, with all the circumstances around Jordan, all the countries around us, they have problems politically and so on. You're familiar with it. And to have this project, a huge project, a $4 billion project, in these circumstances, to get an investor to come interested in this project, it gives a very positive sign that Jordan is safe and our economy is safe. That's encouraging the rest of the private sector to come and invest in the water sector in Jordan, not only in the water sector, in any sector that gives them a level of comfort to come and help us in Jordan. Next. Now we see our pillars in the Jordan National Water Strategy. That's our Water Strategy 2030. This is, it was done by the Jordanian, and with the help of USAID, we got the most important items, where to do it, how to deal with the management, and we got the FARA project out of this National Water Strategy. The FARA project, I consider it with the NRW one of the best projects happened to Jordan. We're working with the milestones with these contracts. We targeted 2% per year of dropping the NRW. Of course, each 1%, it means 5 million cubic meter on water, which is a big number. And we're going along with this FARA projects, which is from the first year gives a very positive and promising future for the water sector. And we're looking forward by this policy with the milestones. It's getting great results. And you see now this graphic, it shows that when we get the national carrier, we will have some positive numbers in the water supply in Jordan until 2030. And until 2024, we have to find another source of water. I don't know at that time what will come up. Of course, the science and the technology is getting and improving. So maybe we can get more water from different resources. This is in a brief of what we're talking about our water issues. It's actually a water problem in Jordan. And I will be ready for next questions and answers session. Thank you. Thank you very much for your listening.
Jordan is one of the most water-scarce countries in the world. It mainly depends on shrinking renewable water supplies of surface water and groundwater and non-renewable resources to meet the growing demand. Groundwater is being used twice as quickly as it can be recharged and is becoming increasingly difficult to abstract and is of lower and lower quality. A high rate of population growth along with the influx of refugees from regional conflicts. These have combined to push Jordan well below absolute water scarcity, which is defined as less than 500 cubic meters of water per year per person. Jordan currently has less than 100 cubic meters of water per person per year. Climate change also left its marks on the rain patterns, threatening to aggravate the problem of the already stressed water supply. This made Jordan turn to its only sustainable source, the Red Sea, to produce drinking water through desalination, a critical factor to the country's economic growth. Aqaba Amman Water Desalination and Conveyance Project is one of the largest desalination projects in the world. It relies on a sustainable resource, the Red Sea. It is comprised of a seawater intake system on the Gulf of Aqaba coast, drawing seawater from levels below the surface, following the best environmental practices to avoid disruptions to sea life, and discharging treated brine back to the sea, while following strict water quality parameters. The drawn seawater is conveyed to a desalination plant to produce fresh water through reverse osmosis. Through the water conveyance system, the fresh water is pumped through approximately 450 kilometers to Amman, lifting large quantities of water annually from sea level to elevations as high as 1,090 meters above sea level. Requires the construction of large pump stations along the way. To reduce the resulting energy consumption cost, innovative power supply and efficiency solutions will be applied. Aqaba Amman Water Desalination and Conveyance Project will supply 300 million cubic meters of potable water annually, equivalent to the demands of approximately 4 million people, providing potable water to all en route governorates starting from Aqaba to Ma'an, to Tafile, to Karak, to Madaba, till it ends in Amman, providing water supply to be distributed to the rest of northern governorates. This sustainable resource will reduce the pressure on groundwater and surface water, allowing nature to rehabilitate depleted aquifers and maintain the supply of water to the people of Jordan. This design and tendering phase of the project comes in partnership between the Ministry of Water and Irrigation and the United States Agency for International Development to improve water supply and meet the needs of Jordanians, thus enhance water security for Jordan.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now, Ashley, the presentation is yours.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to talk to you and to share the screen with our esteemed Minister of Water here in Jordan, His Excellency Raed Abu Soud. I want to put in context the presentations that you're going to hear in the rest of the session around how USAID and actually the US government works with the government of Jordan to achieve these very, very critical goals for the country. Because I think, having served in countries all around the world, I think what's special about being here in Jordan is the relationship that the US government and USAID has with the government of Jordan that allows us to really accomplish significant benefits to the country and prioritize water security. So USAID has partnered with Jordan on water resources management since the 1960s. And in fact, the US government has partnered with Jordan even longer than that, since literally the formation of the establishment of the kingdom in the 1950s. We have been working together on water. And as a result of that, we have, decades and decades of cooperative experience together and trust that we have built up between our two countries. And that has resulted in some really amazing partnerships that have led to significant benefits to Jordan. I will say that water security is not only the largest priority for USAID in Jordan, it's one of the highest priorities for the US government in Jordan. So our cooperation on water is integrated into all levels of our cooperation with the government of Jordan. As you've already heard, the work that we've done has provided water or wastewater services to more than 2 million people. It's reduced national non-revenue water losses, I'm happy to say, by more than 5% in just 2 years. And we've leveraged over $750 million in private and public financing for water just last year. So not even collectively, but just in the last 12 months. And I think that's largely a result of the value that we have in working together. So next slide, please. So we, as I said, we integrate our cooperation and our shared understanding and expectations of our cooperation into all levels of our respective planning documents. So both U.S. government plans and goals, as well as government of Jordan's plans and goals, reflect our shared goals around Jordan's water security. In particular, I want to call out 3 specific documents that are critical and sort of provide the umbrella that guides all of our cooperation. The first is the U.S.-Jordan Memorandum of Understanding. This is a 7-year agreement that outlines where we're going to prioritize our cooperation and also lays out joint goals that we are working towards and commitments that the government of Jordan is making to improve various aspects of the services. In the water sector in particular, as the minister mentioned, Jordan is committed between 2022 and 2029 to reduce non-revenue water loss by 2% per year nationally. They've also committed to achieving cost recovery nationally for residential water consumption. And those 2 goals really drive the majority of USAID's focus. How can we help reduce non-revenue water? How can we help the sector develop in a way that puts them on stable financial footing for the future? In our respective documents, in Jordan's National Water Strategy, these goals are also reflected. And in our own, we call it our Country Development Cooperation Strategy, which is basically USAID's strategy for our support in the country. Water security and these 2 goals in particular take center stage. Next slide. This is, I'm not going to go through this, but this is a summary of our cooperation strategy. And you can see that one whole pillar is Jordan's ability to improve its water security. And we've outlined a number of different areas, the ability to meet water demand, the strengthening governance, efficiency and conservation, and participatory decision-making as sort of the focuses of our work. And I will say also that, to complement this, the way we work together is very important. Over 80% of USAID's funding in Jordan goes directly into government-to-government agreements, whether those are grants or contracts. We work directly with the water institutions in Jordan to achieve their goals, and oftentimes are supporting them directly to implement projects to help build their capacity as we move along. Next slide. So yes, as I anticipated myself, as we work, our goal is really to work through Jordan's systems. So we do, again, mostly through reimbursable grants and host country contracting. That's about 80% of our budget. But we also provide critical technical assistance and architecture and engineering services. And so today we'll hear from 2 of the projects that are providing A&E services and technical assistance to the government to help increase water supply, improve wastewater treatment, and address a host of other issues within the country. And with that, I will turn it over to the next presenter and looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
you, Ashley. Now moving to our speakers, starting with Jose Maria. Jose Maria, please.
Thank you very much, Ashley and Asil. And indeed, CDM Smith has had the privilege to work with USAID for more than 20 years in Jordan in a number of projects improving the water sector, working on water quality programs, water and wastewater design programs. But the one that I want to talk to you about today, we basically use the acronym APSC because basically is the support that CDM Smith is doing to the government of Jordan in the procurement of the Aqaba Amman project. You saw the video, you were able to hear His Excellency talk about this very important project. The magnitude of the project is something that for many of you might be interesting to hear in the engineering community. Is one of the biggest desalination plants globally with a capacity of 300 cubic meters per year. And not only that, even just the desalination plant is a big project, but imagine the fact that then you have to go to 450 kilometers of pipeline. And we have included renewable energy components to it. And there is a number of communities that could be served by the project before it goes to Amman. So you without spending more time on the overview of the project, one thing that it's important to understand is how relevant this project is. And the minister did say that basically this will address most of the current water urgencies, and 40% of the water supply of the country could be benefiting from the project. And it's really a one large project that is completely sovereign and dependent on the Red Sea. So that's why it's so relevant as a project. And serving mostly Amman, but many other communities along the way that could also be served. Because of its size and its energy demand, we have included renewable energy components to it. And this is important for many reasons. One of them is, of course, is creating a relationship with the current country energy capacity, with the future demand, with the community, and in agreement with the Paris Climate Agreement, which is relevant also for the financiers that are behind this project. So that's an element that it's part of the project. And for those of you wondering about how to mitigate the impact of a project of this nature, there has been a lot of thought about synergy with other existing projects using public right-of-ways and existing infrastructure corridors to avoid its impact to the community. So those are some of the main benefits of the National Conveyor Project. And we have to say that, first of all, Ashley mentioned USAID, who is funding the procurement services. But in addition to the USAID support, who has been unconditional, many other entities globally have been supporting the project. And where it is right now, there is the result of donor conferences that were held in the year 2022 and 2023. And as a result, today we have high engagement from many important institutions like the DFC, Development Funding Corporation, the International Finance Corporation, the Green Climate Fund, the European Investment Bank, and many others. What you see here is right now the current project funding breakdown of the project, where we have, as we mentioned, 15% of grants, one of the mechanisms that Ashley was describing. But there is also concessional loans with better financial terms. There is the 7% government Jordan contribution, which is key for the project execution, and more than 50% of commercial lenders. So significant support internationally on the finance of this project. Where is the project? Well, we can tell you that this has been an effort that the government of Jordan has been executing for many years, that basically started with the planning of the project, with the environmental studies, with the preliminary engineering, and the integration with the water master plan and the national water strategy, all going into the procurement process that has been going on for more than 2 years. And it is currently proudly moving to contract negotiations. Some of you might have seen in the news the milestone achieved this month, where the government of Jordan now is entering into the negotiations to confirm if the current bidder can meet all the terms needed by the country to move forward, which we're all hoping that will continue this way. And if that is the case, then it will then move to the construction and operation for 26 years. it's structured as a BOT contract in the sense that this project is attracting, like His Excellency was saying, private interest in this, not only in the construction, but actually in the operation. So it's a BOT contract, build, operate, and transfer. And this allows basically the government to bid in a way where it's attracting an entity that is capable on all fronts, design, construction, and operation of the infrastructure. Currently, we're competing with many other projects of this size, but the news about having the negotiations started is very good news. But there are other ongoing projects of similar capacity that are competing with the national carrier at this time. And going to the next slide, please. I think that is basically the brief summary of the national carrier, now leading space from some of the other projects that are supporting right now the government of Jordan. And with that, I turn over to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Jose Maria, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. As His Excellency, the Minister said, as well as Ashley King from USAID, securing a new water source is critical for Jordan to achieve sustainability, but it's not enough on its own. There is a deficit, water deficit till the national conveyor comes online that needs to be looked at, and other short-term and long-term solutions needs to be implemented in addition to the national conveyor project. And the idea is really to resolve those unique localized challenges as well as finding and developing countrywide strategy. So to perform this work, USAID has funded a 5-year A&E services contract that started in March of last year, 2023. And the objective of this program is to increase water security and improve water resource management. And this is being done through integrating cross-cutting objectives such as gender equity, social inclusion, capacity building, and climate resiliency. Another objective is to enhance private sector engagement as well as donor engagement. This program is structured in a slightly different way from other USAID programs. In order to achieve the needs in Jordan, this project is structured as a flexible, demand-driven activity, which means based on the needs of the minister and the water utilities, projects are created and sent to BWI for us to implement. And one of our key objectives under capacity building is to work with local engineering firms to maximize the participation of local talent. So we have projects going from planning to design to procurement to construction and operation. So if you go to the next slide, please. Currently in the building water infrastructure portfolio, we have about 27 projects that you see on the map in all governorates, 4 strategic national projects, 8 wastewater treatment plants, including the 2 largest, 3 water treatment plants, and 6 water supply and distribution system projects. Next, please. Yes. So we are closely monitoring as we go through the BWI, the MEL indicators. You can see here the actual indicators. Of course, our targets are bigger than that since we're only in the first year of execution. We're looking at the amount of additional water supply we're providing, the additional beneficiaries of improved drinking water and sewer system services. We're also looking at how our improvements help on reducing CO2 emission and non-revenue water. And as was mentioned before, we're also tracking the new funding that is being mobilized through the project. And right now you can see where we stand. So what we're going to do now is go through some of the topics that are needed in Jordan and outlined in the strategy, the national water strategy, and how some of the projects help on this. So the first one, let's start with the importance of the greenhouse gas emission reduction for the climate resiliency, and also for the energy saving and therefore cost reduction for the government. So currently, the energy in Jordan is composed mostly of oil and gas by about 89% and 11% of renewable energy. Out of this power, 15% is being consumed by the water sector. About half of that is being consumed by the agriculture and irrigation needs, and the other half by the needs of the water, wastewater activities. We have set 2 targets in the Jordan National Water Strategy. The first one is to enhance energy efficiency through reducing the energy used per cubic meter of water. So this will help reduce the cost to MWI of the power cost in the water wastewater sector. And the second goal is to increase renewable energy use in the water sector to 40% by 2040. We are currently about 5%. So if you go to the next one. So here is an example of a project on how we were able to help significantly reduce the CO2 emission and saving energy. So you can see the red dot on the map is the location of this plant, which is fairly close to Amman. The project consists of replacing the pumps in 5 pump stations that delivers about 38 MCM per year to Amman. So it's one of the large water treatment plant that can never get out of service due to the water shortage in Jordan. So the goal of the project, the pumps were old and corroded, as you can see on the picture. They had lost a lot of efficiency and there was no standby. So there was a large risk for the government of Jordan. So one of the projects implemented by USAID was to replace those pumps with new super duplex stainless steel pump that would be more efficient and would last longer. The project was implemented at a cost of $13.8 million. And as you can see in the benefits, in 5 years, we saved about $11 million in power, which means that basically the project got almost paid back in 5 years of operation. So this comes along with a high saving, as you can see, on kilowatt hour of electricity, as well as CO2 reduction. Next, please. So another theme that we've looked at is private sector engagement in the O&M. So why is it important? Is because Jordan is investing significant funds in the water and wastewater infrastructure, and we also need to maintain it. So it's key to preserve those long-term investment. It's also very important to provide local capacity building via trainings and hands-on engagement. And finally, the private sector can help improve the efficiency of the water operation and also operate those state-of-the-art infrastructure effectively. So how do we do that in Jordan? So all the new plants that are being right now under bidding are implemented using a minimum period of private contractor O&M. So they operate the plant and then they transfer the knowledge to the government of Jordan and the water utilities before the water utilities take it over. Another point we're looking at also is long-term O&M contract. Some of the plants that have state-of-the-art technology, we're looking at how to engage the private sector on a longer term, which allows them to operate them efficiently and also make sure they're maintained over time. So here's an example of a very successful private sector engagement. It's the Asamra wastewater treatment plant. You can see the location on the map here. It's also located close to Amman. It's the largest wastewater treatment plant in Jordan. It treats about 365 cubic meters per day. It's also, the wastewater is being reused for irrigation, which freed up about 10% of the water supply in equivalent to Jordan, which is very significant. This plant has been in operation since 2008 and was the first BOT project implemented in the water sector. It's a very successful project because not only was it implemented using private sector and BOT financing, it was also financed by local banks, which was very good to see the appetite for the local banks to implement those large infrastructure in Jordan. The SPC is currently under contract for this project till 2037. This project is also 90% energy sufficient via biogas production and hydropower generation. One key item is it's a private sector leading this project, but in addition, they hire local employees. There are about 225 permanent local employees that work currently on the plan and being trained on this project. Another key point of this project was the reduction in CO2 emission by about 300,000 tons per year. Next. So His Excellency and also Ashley mentioned the importance of the non-revenue water and the loss of this water supply in Jordan. This is one of the biggest operational challenges that we're facing right now. About 50% of the water is currently lost through leaks, theft, or inaccurate metering. And this equates to a loss of about 500 million USD per year for the government of Jordan. And also, this has an impact on the people because, as the minister mentioned, it provides only intermittent water supply to the population. And as you can see on the top picture, everyone has tanks on top of their building in order to store the water in between those delivery days. The goal is to reduce the non-revenue water by 25% by 2040 by doing a 2% reduction per year. So if you go to the next one, currently CDM Smith is working on the engineering and construction services management of a project that will help reduce that non-revenue water. It is by replacing and upgrading the bulk water metering points nationally. It's basically bulk metering means like the water that is being either produced or conveyed by the utilities. And by replacing the meters that do not work or accounting for this water and also connecting it to the SCADA system, this will help us enhance the accuracy of the non-revenue water, but also to detect leaks much earlier. So the project is being implemented through a design, build, operate contract. It's a 5-year contract. And it consists, the first step was, of course, to provide a survey. You can see on the map all the points that have been surveyed, about 1,000 locations. And the idea was to understand the status of those meters. So we found out of this, for example, 22% of those sources were not metered. And out of the 1 meter, some were not connected to SCADA. So based on this analysis, we found that about 64% of those bulk meters needed either to be replaced or to be added or to be connected to the SCADA. So we're currently finishing the design phase and going into the construction phase. So now I'm going to hand it over to Bill that will present a few more projects that we're working on.
Okay, I'll do my best in the limited time remaining. As part of the Jordan National Water Strategy, there's also an emphasis on looking at a wastewater treatment plant as a resource recovery facility that includes effluent reuse as well as beneficial use of biosolids that are generated at wastewater plants. Similar to any other country on the planet, wastewater plants produce sludge. And that sludge has a cost associated with it. It has an environmental cost as well as a financial cost in terms of how it's managed. Ways to mitigate that are treating it and finding beneficial uses. In Jordan, there's on the order of 105,000 dry tons of sludge generated annually. Currently, the majority of that is stockpiled or disposed of in landfills. The landfills alone represent a financial investment on the order of $50 million every 15 years without a beneficial use. In addition, current conditions result in the release of about 10,000 tons of CO2 equivalents into the atmosphere every year. So there's a true need to be able to find beneficial use for these biosolids. In the case of Jordan, 41% of the total land area is characterized as degraded. One of the significant benefits associated with biosolids is soil enhancement. It has a high content of organic carbon and nutrients, has slow release of nutrients. It increases water holding capacity, which is very important in an arid environment, and it enhances soil microbial activities. Next slide, please. In addition to talking about biosolids, we mentioned effluent reuse. All 31 wastewater treatment plants in Jordan do use effluent in a beneficial way. 90% of it's being reused in irrigation. And the amount that's been used over time has increased 2/3 since 2008. Some of the challenges are seasonal demand variability because of agriculture not necessarily being as robust in the winter, limited storage associated with it. There was a public perception issue historically, but it's turned around quite significantly. And then pressures on the existing infrastructure. Next slide, please. So keys for achieving sustainable balance between the supply and demand. North Aqaba is a showcase example. In North Aqaba, they've actually been able to take their effluent and they've been able to turn it into a commodity. So 40,000 cubic meters of effluent, reusable effluent is produced per day at the wastewater plant. They're realizing a return of $1 per meter cubed, and it's used primarily associated with irrigation for agriculture and industrial use. They're generating on the order of $4.8 million of revenue annually. In addition, by using this valuable resource, they've been able to reduce the reliance on other surface water or groundwater sources, increasing the supply for the population on the order of 25% and impacting about 150,000 people beneficially. Some of the keys associated with this, 42% landscape irrigation. As we indicated, one of the other things is it's also used as to create a pond for migrating birds reserve. You can see that in the bottom photo, about 20 million birds due to habitat restoration. Another key aspect of this particular plant, as discussed previously by Cecile, is that they're focused on reducing their energy impact and their CO2 emission impact. They use combined heat and gas that's generated from anaerobic digestion and photovoltaic to produce energy at the plant, which results in about 1.2 million in power savings annually. One of the things that was discussed earlier was, and presented and numerous times, was the increased reliance on groundwater. They've been seeing declining levels in groundwater on the order of about 2 meters per year. This has also resulted in degrading the groundwater quality with contaminants such as selenium becoming more predominant, as well as higher salinity. And there's also higher pumping costs as the water level drops. In one particular case where we've been trying to optimize the use of the groundwater, where they're being impacted, is in the Swaka well field. About 45,000 people are particularly impacted there. There's selenium in that groundwater. They do not have other sources to allow for blending to be able to continue use of the groundwater at all times. They've actually shut down 50% of their wells at certain times. So USAID, BWI, what we've been doing is we've been looking at what could be potentially done to treat, to address the selenium, but also looking at innovative new ways in Jordan for constructing groundwater wells using UPVC to improve the overall efficiency of the wells associated in Swaka. And that's it. Thank you.
With this, I would like to thank our speakers for a very informative discussion. We hope this collaborative work by the government, USAID, and implementing partners inspire efforts of partnership and cooperation to address challenges elsewhere and achieve results that contribute to better and more secure human future. Now we will take your questions, and I think we've received some in the chat box. The first one to His Excellency, as from Abel. He's asking, how did you engage the private sector and what sort of investment they are making, considering that they are profit-oriented? What incentives triggered their participation and how significant is their investment? Your Excellency, if you're still there.
Thank you. You know, the involvement of private sector in Jordan is essential. You know, it's King Abdullah II, since he took over, and he's pushing and encouraging the private sector to work with the public sector also. So the water sector was leading in this matter with the with the private sector. We started this with a management contract in Amman with Lima, with Suez. They started this in 1999, and the end result was very fruitful for the water sector. And it proves that this partnership was working and was doing great. From that experience, now we have the utilities working on a commercial basis, and they're carrying their business since then. Then we improved the partnership with the private sector to BOTs. We started with the Samral, and you had a long session on it, and they explained it deeply. But the Samra, it was a unique project with blending the donors, public and private sector engagement. So that was a unique project in the world, and I think it was the first one that we had donors, the USAID, and the public and private sector. And now this plant has been working, and we're going to expand another project with it. We in the water sector, we believe that working with the private sector is a win-win situation. We get a good service, they have to make money, and we are encouraging the private sector to come and work with us, because the guys in water sector, they have an experience with different type of privatization. So that will encourage most of the people to come. And as I said earlier about the national care, it proves that Jordan is going strongly with the private sector. And I can give also another good example of the BOT's project is Queen Alia Airport, which has been with also Meridian, and it's been more doing that. We're doing that since 13 years, and the service improved a lot, and even the Ministry of Transportation started making money because of this project. That proves that a win-win situation is the key with the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We have a question for Ashley. It says, how do bilateral donors and development banks cooperate to support a country in achieving water security? So is there any communications between different donors and banks to ensure coordination in regards to development plans pertaining to a country?
Yeah, thanks for that. It's an excellent question. Yes, we work extremely closely. And again, I have to credit the Ministry of Water and the Ministry of Planning for leading this. There is a centralized, basically repository of all the projects active in Jordan. And then all the banks and donors who are active in Jordan, we're meeting pretty much on a weekly basis, both at the technical level, where it's the actual project officers who are sort of in the weeds about different projects, but then also at our most senior levels. So our ambassadors meet every month, and water is often on the agendas of their conversation. So we really try to ensure that at all levels we are talking to each other. And this is also why the leadership of the government in putting out a national water strategy and putting out an NRW strategy in communicating the intention of the National Conveyor Project are so critical, because then that shows us where the government wants to invest in the sector. And that helps us then get organized around who can do which pieces, who's best suited to doing what. And we can sort of make sure that we can all play together and support Jordan in the most efficient way possible.
Very insightful. Thank you, Ashley. We will then take a question to Jose Maria by Andy West. He's asking about the national carrier. He says renewable energy was required. Where does the rest of the power come from? And he's asking about the proportion of renewable versus fossil fuel generated power. He says desalination and large distance pipeline pumping require tremendous and continuous electricity. So how was the power supply secured for this project?
Thank you very much, Sil, for the question. Indeed, this was one of the major concerns since the project design for the national carrier. And the way it was included, it was not by mandating how much renewable energy was needed, but actually by estimating what was the emission in terms of CO2 per every cubic meter. So basically, the goal is to achieve not more than 3.2 kilograms of CO2 per cubic meter. And that equates to about 300 megawatt, if that's one of the options, for example, 300 megawatt of renewable energy to achieve that goal. The rest of the supply will come from the current grid, which, as Cecile mentioned, it has already a component of renewable. So really, it's not mandated, but it could be around a value of 300 megawatt. And this number has been closely monitored, as I mentioned, not only by the ministry through the procurement, but also by some of the funding agencies that are keen to see these components.
Jose Maria. We have 2 questions for Cecile. So Cecile, it's up to you to, I think you've got like 2-3 minutes to answer. Abdel Nasser is asking installation of such a huge desalination unit. This is require operation and maintenance costs to ensure the system is sustainable. What mitigation measures are considered for that? And then there is another question asking if there are any correlation between BWI and the anticipated USAID Amman urban resilience activity.
So let's start with the second question, which I will redirect to Ashley, as those are both USAID projects.
Yeah, thanks for that. So we are really excited about this Amman urban resilience activity. The way I think about it is that it's a little bit like a Venn diagram. The procurement is active now, so I can't go into too much of the detail, although we did publish a summary on the US government procurement website, which you can all go and look at and read, that sort of outlines our kind of vision for the project. But really, climate, obviously, anything having to do with water security in Jordan is dealing with climate change adaptation, because the climate is changing here so quickly and the water constraints are already so intense that anything we can do to, improve the water security here, we have to factor in climate change, and climate change is going to make it that much harder to achieve the goals. But Jordan is also facing, and Amman in particular, where 40% of the population lives, they're facing a whole host of other climate impacts that may or may not be directly tied to water. So what we're hoping is that through Aura, we can address those challenges for Amman. Some of them will overlap with the water sector, things like flash floods, which the minister talked about in his remarks. That is a challenge both for water management and climate change adaptation. But there are other climate hazards like heat waves, like droughts, these kinds of challenges that Amman is also facing that may not be as directly tied to the work that we're doing in the water sector. But we will definitely be looking not just with USAID projects, but with all the projects active here, to make sure that what we're doing is complementary to what has happened already in the country. There's been a lot of planning and a lot of discussion around the challenges that Amman faces. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. So for the first question, I guess is going to be maybe combined with Jose Maria and the APSC. It's true that the desalination and the pumping increase the cost of operation, and it has to be considered, which is why this project includes CAPEX and OPEX, which is through a BOT, which translates to a water tariff. Therefore, we're looking at both at the same time. Ways to also minimize the O&M costs. We're going through the private sector, getting the best contractors to work on it, looking at the latest technology, looking at minimizing power costs, trying to use renewable energy, using efficient pump, considering variable frequency drive when required. So looking at all the options to minimize O&M costs. Some of it, of course, the biggest is probably the pumping. But as we mentioned, Jordan needs water. And right now, there is no groundwater or surface water that can give us that much water. So this is a project that is being optimized as much as possible and is critical for the country. That's the big water source that Jordan needs in the future. I don't know, Jose Maria, if you want to add something.
Not much to add in the sense that it's definitely a very ambitious project, and the government of Jordan is doing its possible to optimize the use of all the resources to reduce as much as possible the high cost of pumping water for such a distance. But it really, like you said, and the minister made clear, the kingdom has really limited options. So this is the most optimal in terms of sovereign and trying to reduce its cost as much as possible with everything you said.
Please, I want to add on this one also. The water in Jordan is a precious commodity now. It's sometimes we have not to look on the price only. We have to look into that. Do we have water or not? Like in 5 years' time from now, I could see that our situation will be deteriorating more and more, which means that the only way out is to supply water once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It means that only supplying water to drink. So the rest of activity, whether tourism, industry, agriculture, it will be canceled. So this will put the country in a burden. So sometimes I look at this issue. It's a precious commodity. We have to get this water available, no matter what. Just thank you.
Exactly. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for the attendees. Actually, we still have some questions unanswered, but we'll do our best to answer. This is the limit of questions we can take due to session time limit. So I would like to. We're looking forward to connecting with you and building up cooperation means to bridge borders towards sustainable future. Please feel free to contact us at the email address I will post to the chat now. And regarding the presentation, I believe it's unshareable because it's copyrighted, but you can get back to the presentation recording via World Water Week CV and ask for the session recording. Thank you all for being with us today here and for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.